All right, well, back here's the deal. Today we have the founder and CEO of the Spartan Race. Listen to the full episode because at the end of the episode, guys, you're going to get the details of something pretty exciting for the Adaptive Alphas community. Again, you probably have more questions than when I started this video. If you guys don't know who Joe De Sena is, his principles, his philosophy, his rules of life, man, you need to get to know this guy because he is a phenomenal human being. And I had a great time sitting down and talking to him and deep diving his new book. Also, this is the first episode that we did not do in person. We connected on the social media platform TikTok, and I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to interview Joe De Sena. Joe, man, he provided a ton of value for our listeners, our community, and I'm really, really excited about it. So tune in, guys. Again, like, subscribe, share this episode if it brings you any value. Let's go. What's up, Wolfpack? Welcome back to another episode of the Adaptive Alphas podcast. I'm your host, Josh Sanchez. Appreciate you guys tuning in today. We have a special guest. I'm going to start the introduction a little bit differently because I've been deep diving you since the moment I knew you were coming on, Joe. So self-made millionaire out of college, then started a trading firm on Wall Street, then founded the Spartan Race, which is now in 45 countries, the recent host of the new CNBC TV show, No Retreat, and the author of a book that is quickly becoming one of my favorites out of all of, because it's in a league of its own, I think, with family, tying in family with everything. The book is called 10 Rules for Resilience, and it gives you 10 principles for leading your family to true resilience. Joe, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'll tell you what, every day, I think we all go through some tough moments where you're like questioning what you're working on. Are you going to make it or not? When I listen to what you just said about me, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm doing okay. I'm all right. I wrote a book and no one's read it, but it's okay. Like, I'm with you.
Yeah. So the positioning, the 45 countries is a really strong positioning statement. What would you say? Where are you guys operating out of, like, consistently? Is that 10 countries? Is that 20 countries? Where you guys kind of have a consistent flow with the races?
This is going to sound silly, but for years I was working on Switzerland, and I was on with the team this morning, and we just knocked out a race in Switzerland last weekend. I wasn't even tracking. So it just took over. The team is so amazing. It's so global. It's something that is so exciting for any human being, whether they're tall, short, fat, skinny, Marines, monks, mobsters, moms, doesn't matter. I think everybody wants to just feel alive. So most of those 45 countries were pretty consistent. Obviously, U.S. comprises about half the participants annually. I would say coming out of COVID here this year, we'll be a little light. We'll be about 1.1, 1.2 million participants around the world. So 600,000 of them will be from the U.S., 600 from all the other countries. Next year, I'll get back to normalized growth, probably be 1.5 million registrants around the world. There's a lot of Spartans, a lot of mutters, a lot of folks out there doing tough stuff, which is exactly what we want.
I really think that to highlight this book, to highlight you, to highlight your values, to highlight your nature, if you could share with the audience, how was COVID for you guys? Because your business is so focused on community and everyone's close and it's in different countries, so you got to travel sometimes. So how was that for you? How did you guys make it out alive? What was that like?
There's a great story of the Marines, right? In the Korean War, Chosin Reservoir, where they're completely surrounded, and the Marine commander realized that they're out of ammunition. And he says to his men, really good news. We know exactly where they are. And so I would say, really good news. We were shut down in 45 countries. We had a furlough of 500 people. We lost $50 million. It's amazing that I'm sitting here with you on a podcast. It's just a testament that by practicing adversity, which is what we preach and what I do, you're able to better navigate really fucking hard times. And so for me, it is the most challenging time I've ever experienced, but I'm able to go back to a place in my mind where we have 4 healthy children. I have a wife who still opens the front door for me when I come home. You know what I mean? We have food. Yeah. So like, as bad as it is, as bad as it got, it wasn't that bad. I'm alive.
Right. And so was there anything pivotal that happened to keep you guys out of going bankrupt or anything, anything, or was it just kind of the
every day was you had to put out fires and deal with what was, every day was crazy. So
we immediately went to the farm. The farm, it's like the CIA has a farm. Spartan has a farm. It's up in Vermont. It's where Spartan was founded. 5 key employees came up to the farm and we hunkered down. And every single day we started at 5 a.m. I mean, every day, 7 days a week. It was like Groundhog Day.
Wow.
And we did 4 live workouts a day. My kids did workouts. I filmed me waking the kids up. And the goal was simply to keep the community engaged. That was it. We were lighting money on fire everywhere else because we couldn't hold events. And we were working with vendors and, all our payables and just to stretch things out the best we could. And hope that, folks would understand the situation we were in, which they did. It was only one vendor that gave us a hard time. He said he was going to send Italians to my house to collect. And I said, well, give me their names. I probably know them because I grew up in a pretty rugged Italian neighborhood. And we just fought through. And I think it was that ability to put one foot in front of the other, create standards and rituals and daily routines that we were consistent with every single day. We didn't wake up and walk around in pajamas. Like, we did the work, and it's paying off. And when we come out of this completely, which I would say the next 12 months, we'll be, able to pat ourselves on the back and dust off our shoulders and say, oh my God, how was that? We'll say it. The reason we were able to do it was because we didn't hide in the corner.
Man.
Stayed in the game.
And it's also a testament to your team, right? The people that you have in your corner, the people that you have that you surround yourself with. Which is probably a whole other podcast episode in itself, because recruiting, finding, building, whether it's, nature, nurture, finding those team members that are really going to show up 5 a.m., 7 days a week. That's a whole other conversation. So really cool. I do want to pivot to the new TV show that you have. Man, I think it's so cool that you were able to implement what you do at the farm with these executives or these small business owners, or, you have the gamut. You said in another podcast I listened to, you said that was, if not harder, as hard as dealing with COVID with the business. Why is that?
You mean creating the show?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know how many days, 65, 75 days away from the family. And moments of just literally standing, waiting for the cameras to roll, standing for hours, right? And just, it's one thing, I don't mind work. I don't mind doing. I don't mind shoveling, chopping wood. But to stand and do nothing and wait for a camera and try to look good, like, it's not my thing. I want to do in life. I don't, you know what I mean? It's not that I don't want to be a teacher. It's not that I don't want to give back. But if I got to teach somebody, like, come to the farm or meet me at 5 a.m, work out with me, like, I'm not a passive teacher. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. What was the motivation to do the show?
Yeah, what happened was I was literally carrying my kettlebell around New York, and somebody was going in to meet with CNBC, and they brought me up to the executive's office, and I dropped my kettlebell on their desk and told them that it was my favorite show since CNBC started. I feel like I've been watching it from the very beginning. He asked me some questions, and they got excited about doing a show where I apply all the crazy Spartan stuff, the methodology, the system, the mindset that I apply to individuals, but to businesses. And I said, we do it anyway, by the way. I mean, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Nikes, the Reebok, they all come to the farm anyway. So why not show other companies, especially coming out of COVID? And Mark said, let's do it. So we did it.
That's awesome. And I want to actually dive into that, because that's not a small feat in itself to deal with Fortune 100 companies or Fortune 500 companies and have them coming to the farm for the last 20 years. How'd you get your foot in the door? Was it just the executives were coming to the Spartan races? Was it your network? How did that happen?
We're really lucky in that so many executives do races. I'll be on an airplane and you bump into the CMO of Home Depot. You're driving somewhere or whatever, you meet a person that's in charge of a whole division of the military. And they know Spartan. They believe in the brand. And so it's a lot of incoming. I would say, if anything, we're not really organized, not really a business we focus on, because our business is building courses on the sides of mountains all over the world during hurricanes and rainstorms and fires right now going on in Tahoe. So yeah, if somebody focused on it, we'd probably do a lot more of it.
When it comes to that aspect of it, that's something that I really resonated with it, which was in one of the chapters, I think it was rule number 8. I believe that's chapter 8 as well of your new book. It's Into the Wild. And you talk about all the benefits of being in nature. You talk about Richard Louv, he was an author that I read a couple of years before the pandemic started. The nature principle, I believe. He also coined the term nature deficit disorder. So learning the science behind all of the benefits of being outside made me question why I haven't done a Spartan race in my history. I've been doing CrossFit for about 10 years now. And for whatever reason, I think I associated Spartan with Tough Mudder, which is more of the casual, like, let's drink a beer after we're done with it. And so it never really resonated. And so I was like, no, that's not interesting to me. But really diving into your background, your book, your show, I'm like, man, I've been missing out for all these years on a Spartan race. So I just wanted to mention that. How's the show doing? I mean, do you guys have the analytics? Are you guys going to do another season? How's it?
Yeah, the show did well, but it did really well, oddly, in the afternoon after motocross. CNBC had a few episodes of motocross. I don't know why. And they put it after, and it did really, really well. So somehow the folks that like to watch motocross like to watch this show. Maybe because there's a connection with all the mud and the dirt and, like you said, the wild. We're waiting to see. We'll see if there'll be another season. It would be great for the business, not great for me personally to run around the world and do more of that. But it is what it is. Somebody told me a long time ago, you take care of the business so that the business could take care of you.
Right. That's great advice.
As far as you never doing an event and being more indoors, focused on CrossFit, which is obviously hard work. Where are you physically located?
We're located in Salt Lake City, Utah.
You're in Utah. We have an amazing event in Utah. We have a bunch of events not too far away from you. I would challenge you, to go out to 300 listeners, 300 folks that listen to your podcast or are connected to your community. Okay. And I'll give you 300 entries. We'll tie them to charity if you want. Okay. And I would suggest you and those 299 go out and do this together. We'll create a whole thing around it. What you'll find, because I've been doing this for 20 plus years, your business, your followership, it will hockey stick. It will go through the roof, because it's one thing to be on a podcast with folks, or like I said, do a TV show and be passive. It's another thing to be shoulder to shoulder with them. You build bonds for life. The strongest element to the entire Spartan ecosystem is the community. And again, you can go drinking with people, you go have dinner with them, but when you do hard things together, well, right? You think about how tight you are with the folks in the CrossFit box, right? So I would challenge you. It's on me. And Utah is great. We got a great event out there.
When's the next one coming up?
You and I will find the next event that's closest, or maybe your community is in California, not Utah, whatever. We'll get you to one, and you rally the troops.
Let's do it.
You and your community would love it.
I'm excited. I was actually looking at the other, I think it's called the Death Race. Whatever kids camp you have, I have an 11-year-old daughter. And so I was telling her about it after I was reading the book. Your philosophy, your life, everything, everything from the self-discipline to doing hard shit, facing adversity, challenge. I'm a first-gen immigrant, and so I experienced a lot of that growing up. My dad's owned his own business for 35 years. I've never had anything really given to me or handed to me. I've worked for everything. Blinding work ethic is second nature. Putting in the time, the energy, sacrificing for the future. That's kind of been my life philosophy. And how Adaptive Alphas was created was creating a space for individuals that are seeking personal excellence, where it's okay to be here and say, I want to change. I want to strive for more. And no, I don't want to hang out with you on the weekend to watch a game and get drunk, or I don't want to spend my whole Sunday watching football. Let's do things to make each other grow. So I resonate with everything, but I'm also trying to consider the person that's on chapter 1 or trying to figure out how to start implementing these things in their lives. So, and you authentically being yourself, man, I resonate so deeply with everything that you talk about. So let's talk about the book, The 10 Rules for Resilience. Congratulations. I also listened to, again, the podcast you're on where you're like, I think I need a child psychologist or a family psychologist on here so people don't just come for me, because they really do come for you. I had a post go viral where I said, I don't give my kids refined sugar. When my daughter comes to my house, she has no sugar. There's no candy. There's nothing. The most sugar she gets is from fruits and from maybe coconut water. But we don't have any refined sugar, processed sugar in our house. And man, I got hundreds of comments, and it was insane. Hundreds of comments of saying, poor child. I can't believe, that is the worst parenting ever. She's going to be addicted to this, there was just, everyone came out was a psychologist. Everyone that came out called me like a horrible parent. I'm like, this is a real thing. You know, it was fascinating.
That's the exact reason this book was written, was because I was raising kids. I'm still raising kids. And I tried to implement exactly what you suggested. Like, hey, let's get away from refined sugar. Let's get away from late night TV, going to bed late. Let's wake up early. And what I found was the entire world around me was working against me with my own kids. Mm-hmm. If we were walking outside, my boys, and carrying kettlebells around the neighborhood for an hour, I had people stop and check and ask the kids if they knew me, if I was pushing them too hard, did they need water? I was like, they're my children. We're fine. We'd be out on a swim in a lake and somebody would kayak, get that kid out of the water. He should be in the... What are you talking about? It's my child. And
right.
We'd be skiing and all of a sudden people are handing them cookies. What are you doing? Now all of a sudden I'm the bad guy because we're eating a salad and you just like, right? Or you go to a bank. I'm trying to teach them how to deposit money. How does a bank work? And they're handing lollipops and can't like, so the entire world was working against me and I just wanted to dig in. And my wife was really worried about writing a book because number one, you never know if you're right? We don't know the outcome yet of the kids, but our instinct was move out of the way, put obstacles in front of the kids, don't take them away, always lean harder, create a really healthy environment around food. Yes, kids should sleep, but they don't have to wake up late to sleep. They can go to bed early to sleep. Somehow on social media, there's this feeling that they have to stay in bed till 9 a.m. in order to get a lot of sleep, but they could go to bed at 8 p.m. I don't understand, right? So you want to let your kids use devices as a way to get them away from you and calm them down. That's on you. Like that. So what my wife and I did was, listen, you could watch as much TV as you want as long as it's in Mandarin. And my kids, right? Our kids speak fluent Mandarin now.
Right.
So you could turn that detriment into a real positive. We did a little study at our kids' death camp every summer, late June. We do this kids' death camp. Your daughter's invited, and awesome. And we had a bunch of kids, and they were doing really, really well. And I said, you know what? I mean, these kids are working 14, 16-hour days. You can't believe the volume of work. And let's give them some ice cream. Right. It's completely everybody's getting some ice cream and they don't have their phones because we took their phones away. And I said, let's also give them their phones tonight because they've been crushing it. The kids all took their phones over the ice cream, got so engrossed in their phones that the ice cream melted.
Whoa.
The phones are more addictive than the sugar.
And sugar is as addictive as cocaine, some people say, right? Like that's
the phone, the folks in Silicon Valley have figured out how to make the phone more addictive than sugar and cocaine. So, but here's the good news. What I found is that we could use that to our advantage. Now, the best thing would be if Samsung and Apple came together and said, look, we know these phones are incredibly addictive. We know every kid has one. So what we're going to do is the phone gets turned off, goes black every 5 minutes unless the kid answers a math question or does a burpee or whatever. Like you could literally transform the world, this new generation through the phones, but they're not going to do that. So what we could do as parents, as aunts, as uncles or whatever is, hey, you take the phone away. But if you do this thing, you get the phone back. Get your workout in, get your phone back. Do your homework, get your phone. It's so addictive that it's actually helpful, right? So, first thing in the morning when I'm waking the girls up, I'm embarrassed that they have phones, but the girls have phones, and they're having a tough time getting out of bed, and it's 5:45 in the morning, so I don't blame them. And I'm like, all right, I'm taking your phones. They're up out of bed. They are ready for the workout.
Yeah, you got to get creative with that. I mean, that's one of the things I really liked about the book. In one chapter, you say, I'm going to buy you whatever technology you want, the game system, whatever, but you set those parameters, right? You set those prerequisites before you get that you get that system. And then at one point, I think you got your son a gaming system, and he was like, I don't think it was worth it, because all of he doesn't even play it because you set all those parameters. So we got to get creative. I don't own a TV. But I do own a laptop, and I do own a cell phone. And so even I don't want to be holier than that, because I fall victim to that as well. Like just growing our brand on TikTok itself, I have to go on TikTok, I have to comment, and then I find myself engrossed in that algorithm. And I'm like, what did I just spend 10 minutes of mindlessly scrolling on this thing? And it was like that. So yeah, man, we've got to figure some stuff out. But to your point with the environment, I think environment is so crucial for people. And that's one of the things I wish I could sit down with some of these parents or some of these people commenting back on these social media platforms, or even our audience, and say, there's when that's not in your environment, it's an afterthought. You don't think about it. If you don't have a choice or decision to consume unhealthy foods or consume electronic devices or play that video game system, out of sight, out of mind type of thing. And so some of the biggest challenges that I'm sure you've come across, and what I've come across with this kind of different lifestyle, is the influence of her peers that add pressure to that situation. Because kids are adaptable. So I've got a gauge on raising kids in a similar way that I have, and these kids are turning out to be super successful. My older sister, two of her kids are one of them is killing in Hollywood, and the other one is a producer. My niece Eliana was a co-star for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Hobbs and Shaw. So that's his daughter in that movie was my 10-year-old niece. And then my 13-year-old nephew, at the time, then signed a deal with a huge record label as a producer. And now they're 16, 17, or 15 and 16, I think, or 14 and 16. And they're making awesome choices. They eat whole foods, they eat real foods, farm to table preferably. They travel everywhere. Like, they are just super successful. They don't have an affinity towards refined foods, processed foods, and they're just killing it. And I'm like, they're leaders in their own right. That's kind of, for me, the only example I need. And it's weird because we don't have a lot of those examples. And so, yeah, man, I guess we're going to need life to catch up in the next decade or two to say, hey, look, this way of parenting, even though it seems like, we're lieutenants or generals, or it's really more akin to how we're naturally born, whether you believe in evolution or God. Adversity, challenge, eating real food, not consuming big foods products. It's like, that's more normal than not. Again, it's so powerful. So I love everything you say about that. You have so many great stories.
I got a couple of stories. Let's get into it. So at one of our death camps, our kids' death camps, unbeknownst to me, this was the first year, I didn't know the kids were texting their parents at night. They were doing the work during the day. Everything seemed to be going well. But at night before bed, they were texting, get me the hell out of here. This guy's nuts. This is a prison. This is not a camp. I can't believe you sent me here. Mom and Dad, you would both die. You could never handle this. You have to help me escape. And one of my friends sent me the text because, and him and his wife were awesome. They were writing back to their son, Patrick. And again, I didn't know any of this was going on. They were like, oh, it sounds like a Peloton class. He was like, are you fucking crazy? This guy is nuts. We're in cold water at 5 a.m. We're doing push-ups. You would never last. And they said, oh, it sounds like you'll get a 6-pack. And they just wouldn't take the bait.
Yeah.
Completely losing his mind. And then because I got that information, I took away all phones. What's amazing is once I took the phones away, the kids do the work. They literally just do the work. Parents, on the other hand, when I have adults come to the farm and do that, they don't make it through. They're able to quit. They can go find their car keys. They could find out how to get home. The kids can't, right? So that's interesting to me. Some of the other stories are, listen, we've had tons of people come to the farm over the years, and they start to build a resilience because they talk to each other. And the new people coming in, they know what I've done in the past. And one year, I don't know when it was, maybe 2012, 2011, the death race was over. It was complete. We had already made a decision of who finished and who didn't. And I don't know, there were 12 or 18 people that had been cut during the race. One of them had no shoes. His feet were duct taped. They looked like the Walking Dead. And they said, "We're not done, Mr. De Sena. We're continuing on. We're going to finish this thing." And I said, "You don't understand. It's Monday morning and the race is over. There's no insurance. I'm going to bed. I've been up since Thursday. Like, it's over. I'll see you guys later." But we're not done. We're going back out into the woods. We're going to complete the 18-mile track. We're going to do the 3-mile swim. We're coming back and we're going to get our skulls. The skull is the trophy for completion. And I said, "You guys are nuts. Like, it's over." And I went into my house and I realized, okay, this could be a dangerous situation. So I hit up my staff and I said, "Do me a favor. Go like 3 miles into the woods and just block the road, block the trail with the cars and the trucks. And turn these knuckleheads around. I really have to go get some sleep." They call me a little bit later and they're like, "Hey, we got a problem." I said, "What?" He said, "Literally, it was like The Walking Dead, Joe. They just crawled over our cars and would not stop. They continued. They're completely obsessed. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to bed." I go back to bed. My wife wakes me up. "Oh my God, we have no insurance. There's going to be a problem. We have to go get them." I'm like, "What do you want me to do? I can't. They're adults. What do you want me to do?" We drive. She throws me in the car. She's like 8 months pregnant with our 4th child. We drive all the way around, which is like 35 miles. We're on the other side at the entry of this very cold reservoir where they were headed. My wife sees them, and 8-month pregnant mom goes nuts. And they all put their heads down and they all climbed into a Suburban, which looked like a carnival because there were so many people that stunk because they hadn't showered in 4 or 5 days. And my pregnant wife, and she drove them all back to the farm and put them, in their cars and sent them home. That was a funny story because it just shows you how we become obsessed as human beings. And they just they couldn't find the off switch. I got a million stories.
No, I love that. I love that. I think it's important to point out the nature of humans. Like, I don't remember where I saw this, but it was someone where it was just candidly like, just try to imagine this for a second. He's like, human beings can out endurance every animal on this planet. And he's like, and the animals that we didn't out endurance or outrun or, outlast in the form of like hunting, we made our pets, like we made them our allies, and now we're their masters. So he's like, now imagine that you are an animal, just an animal that's getting hunted by a human, and you sprint 45 miles per hour, and you're doing that for 5-10 minutes, and you can't see this thing that's coming at you. And then all of a sudden, over the horizon, you see this thing is coming at you. And so you do it again, and you do it again, and you continue to just out sprint, outpace, and this thing's not stopping. And then to where you get to a point where you're so exhausted as that animal getting hunted by this human that you just give up, and this human kills you and consumes you as food. Like, that's what you are, this ultimate endurance adaptation machine. And I thought it was so cool to just like think about that. And now imagine the sedentary lifestyle of what we're living now, which is nowhere near. I think there's some scientists that say that we've evolved to run or jog 45 miles a day or something crazy, right? It's so interesting. I do want to highlight an aspect of something that I've really tried to quantify with my own kids, which is failing forward and getting really familiar with failure. I think some of the stuff that you talk about in your book is so needed, from the story of your son getting involved in wrestling, I believe. And, he's not doing too well, or he just lost a match. You remember the advice that you gave him? You're like, "I failed," and you're like, if you want to share it, it would be better.
I think there's so many stories, but I think it was the one, like, you got to fail like 1,000 more times before you win. So I don't know what you were. You got 999 to go.
Yeah. I feel like you got to lose about 700 more matches before you become good at this thing.
Right.
Also, the thing that you pointed out, which I'm now excited. I've been looking into girls wrestling for my 11-year-old. She loves to wrestle, so I think she's going to love the sport. But who knows? Is something that you pointed out was a lot of the monks, the successful business owners, the professional, like the top tier athletes, all had a commonality of wrestling at a young age. Is that right? That was you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really interesting insight. Do you want to share a little bit of the
insight? Like I didn't know when I started to build Spartan, I got invited to a lot of military events. I got to know a lot of the military. I got to know a lot of the fighters, the UFC, and I had no idea that the wrestling mindset was born out of, that decade long grind in the wrestling room, is a very resilient creature. They get back to what you described, this endurance machine. Mm-hmm. And so it's no surprise then that, the Navy SEALs, the Rangers, Delta, et cetera, they're all looking for that wrestler as their foundational piece of clay that they can then mold in their way. And it's no different in the UFC or anywhere that requires, discipline, strength, commitment. So I fell in love with the sport as I learned more. My kids got into it. Mm-hmm. My wife wouldn't let my daughters do it. I wish they were. My daughters do soccer. Much, much easier sport. Yeah. Much easier.
Still a great sport.
Great sport. Shame on me. One lesson I would give anybody listening that has parents or that has kids, that it's a parent, mm-hmm. I would say you have to let the kids know why. Like, we all need to know why. Why am I doing the podcast? Why am I doing the show? Why am I building this business? Why marriage? Why kid? You got to know why. You got to have your purpose, why, figured out. And shame on me with the kids. I never really got into the why. Like, yeah, dad wants us to be tougher and stronger, whatever. But it's very hard to get into a good college. If you believe in college, you want to get into a good school, the competition's pretty stiff, especially from immigrants from all over the world, right? Other countries, everybody's fighting for those few spots at these mm-hmm. top schools. I learned that if we pick the sports that all kids play, it's just as tough then, because there's so many kids playing football, or, you pick the sport. But if you get into the fringe sports, if you get into wrestling, if you get into rowing, which also happen to be rugged sports that build resilience, which are great attributes that all people should, obtain or uncover, because we have it from years ago. It's just buried in bonbons right now. We've got to uncover that resilience. Yeah, it's easier to get into these schools, and so we're just seeing it as in our family. It's not a gimme, but it's easier. And you remember what happened with that Varsity Blues scandal not too long ago. Like, you don't have to do anything illegal. You gotta keep your grades up, and you gotta find a fringe sport, and you gotta be halfway decent at it. You got a good shot at getting into Harvard.
I think you're a great example of that too, because you have been successful for a certain amount of years. So I'm sure your kids could be as well off as the so many other very successful people, but you still, you're still challenging them and creating these awesome principles and things that I think are going to definitely mold some awesome and amazing adults and amazing humans, and they're amazing regardless. But it's just, I think that's a conversation that a lot of people want to talk about, which is when you do reach a level of success or have a nice financial cushion and your kids can have virtually anything.
Be careful, because I think privilege is a negative on kids. I think if we had our way, look, if you and I were president, I would argue all kids should go through some sort of rite of passage. They should get everything taken away, their phone, this, that. They should struggle. They should live outside in a tent, right? They should not have food for a while. Privilege, Uber Eats, all these things, the nice house, all the stuff I have you're not doing the kid a favor.
Right. I completely agree with that. I think the more that I'm reading your book, I think the next step for you, and maybe you've already thought about this, is you're just going to create a new Montessori style school that's going to implement all these things. The Spartan school for kids.
It would be my dream. It would be my dream. It would be on the farm. We'd take take kids. It would be my dream. My dream would be that the military would pay me to do all this.
Wow. So you actually have thought about that?
Oh, absolutely. But awesome. how many things could you do? But that, when I think about my purpose and what I want to do in life, I would love to create a school.
Yeah, man, because me and my 11-year-old. So I have a 1-year-old and 11-year-old. And my 11-year-old, I've been reading a lot about rituals and everything that you've been saying. I was like, hey, we're going to find a rite of passage for you. Like we're going to create it. And it wasn't direct, like, hey, you're going to do this. It was more when I spoke about it, she's like, I want to do something like that. Like, I want a rite of passage. I'm like, as a female, you kind of have those biological differences that happen and you have those conversations. It was more towards, I'm reading a book called The Boy Crisis and dealing with men's development and stuff. It's a whole industry that I've been drowning in for the last seems like year. But when I read the book and especially I was like, maybe this is her rite of passage, but maybe you have better ideas. Maybe you know of other programs for,
well, I'd love to have her with my daughters at the deaf camp in June. So that would be a good one. And then I would start with bringing you and her together. Along with your 299 disciples, should go do a race together. I'm amazed at the hundreds of thousands of kids around the world, every country, that do these events, and it completely transforms the kid. So start with one of our events. It's on me, and then let's work our way toward June, where we level up. She'll kick and scream and cry like my daughters, but and my boys, but they come out the other side better human beings.
See, my daughter has this another way. She looks at it and she's like, "That's going to be easy, Dad. I got that. That's easy. I'll do it." She doesn't even though she doesn't have the capacity to back that confidence up. She's like, "That's easy. I can do that." I'm like, I don't know if you heard what I said that they do at this camp. They wake up earlier and earlier for cumulatively 2 weeks. They move huge rock, like they go climb mountains. Like you don't do that. You don't even do that at my house. You don't do any of that stuff. So her confidence is whatever's going to get her there. Yeah, that's all that matters. Last thing I do want to just kind of end on the importance of having a why, so you can endure it, and you can overcome anyhow. I think that's so important. I think for me, I've done consulting with businesses here in Silicon Slopes, which is our rendition on Silicon Valley here in Utah. I've just come in to purely do that for organizations. Define your values, define your North Star, define all of that, and really live those secondary values, first values. Like what does the culture currently look like? What are you guys aspiring to? What are your aspirational values? And seeing how important that is for businesses to be successful, but how important the individual and the family unit, how impactful those are to keep you guys on track. Like, why are you doing this in the first place? Why are you waking up at 5 a.m.? Why are you working out? Why are you working out so hard? Why are you working so hard towards your business? There's got to be the reasons, right? And so what's something quickly that you could leave the audience with that you would say, this has been that fast track for that?
I would say selfishly, and it ties into something I wanted to cover anyway, I would say selfishly, human beings are motivated by the avoidance of discomfort, okay? We want to avoid discomfort at all costs. More than we want to take drugs, more than we want to drink, more than we want to eat, more than sex, we want to avoid discomfort.
More than sex?
Yeah, more than anything. We don't want to do anything uncomfortable. That you wake up in the morning, you have the greatest intention to go work out. You're looking at your phone, you're making coffee, you're doing anything but work out. You got to catch yourself. You found yourself doing it and swiping up for 10 minutes, right? And looking at social media. It has what's kept us alive on the planet. We don't freeze to death. We don't fall off a cliff because we're constantly avoiding discomfort. And the brain requires so much energy that the brain is saying, don't expend that energy, man. That's dangerous, right? Mm-hmm. So given that fact, the way you can stay on track is by having a why. Like for me, it's really uncomfortable to run this business. It's really hard, but I want to change 100 million lives. And as long as I say that 1,000 times and I say it publicly and I stick to it, and then when times get really hard or I'm not looking at like, okay, but I got to change lives. That was my deal, right? Mm-hmm. So the biohack for all of us to stay healthy is to have a date on the calendar. Whether it's a boxing match, a wedding. I notice a lot of people they're going to get married. They're getting in shape because they want to look good in their photos. You got to have something on the calendar. For us, it's Spartan Race, it's Tough Mudders. Get something on the calendar. I'm launching a global pass in the next month. First time ever. Where somebody for 9 years could fill up their calendar. This pass gives you 9 years of filling your calendar with why.
Wow.
I'm making it really easy. It's paint by, color by numbers here.
Are we getting the exclusive? Like, have you already announced this, or?
It has leaked out in the last 5 days, but you're getting more information than most. Okay. Somebody in our company leaked it out, which was annoying.
That sucks.
Yeah. So the idea is, look, whether I don't know what's going to tickle you. You might want to do a mountain bike race. You might want to do a trail run. You might want to do a Spartan or a Tough Mudder or a hiking event. We have all those brands within our umbrella brand, Spartan. So take this pass, sign up for as much shit as you can, create your why for the next 9 years. And then you're going to like this. It's a little fun. I'm going to build a memorial with the mayor of Sparta. We've been working on a memorial. It's 35 foot high Spartan helmet, rusted Spartan helmet with 300 tombstones around it representing the 300. Those that have the pass will have a little stone, supporters. We've all supported this effort, this monument. Mm-hmm. And under your stone, you could put your ashes when you die. So imagine living in eternity.
Let's go.
Imagine living in eternity with the 300. Like, who wants to go to some boring cemetery somewhere when it's all over? I want to be with the 300.
Wow.
So I'm just getting ready to launch this thing in like the next 30 days. And that, I hadn't considered it the way you said it. It's really creating your why. That's what it is. Let's take my daughter, and you're a kid, right? Let's take my daughter, and we're going to, over the next 9 years, from 11 years old to 20, we're going to travel the world. We're going to do a bunch of events. And she knows when it's all over, we're going to be buried together in Sparta.
Wait, so are you going to do this with your kids?
Yeah. I got to, by the way, my family doesn't know. So tomorrow I'm going to do a live on Instagram and let my family know that we're all getting buried in Sparta. See how that goes.
Bro, I love that. That gave me goosebumps while you're talking about it, just thinking about that. I don't know what creative team or who was leading this idea, but whoever it is, if it was you, give yourself a raise, give this person a raise, because that's genius. Like, you have intrinsically tied into, I don't even want to give it away, but like, amazing.
Can you do me a favor? I don't know anything about Discord, but apparently we're starting a Discord channel, Spartan Discord group.
Okay.
Where all the maniacs that want to be buried there are joining. So I got to get you in there. You know anything about this Discord thing?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Discord is basically the platform to introduce NFTs or anyone into Web3. So yeah, I can't think of a better way to end the podcast. I didn't think I could like the Spartan brand more until you just said that. It's like, it gets me stoked. I'm like, what? How do I get a part of that? So for sure, Wolfpack, follow Joe De Sena. Where can the Wolfpack follow you? Where can they go?
Go to Real Joe De Sena on Instagram and get in this Discord Spartan channel, which I'm going to get into here soon. And let's form. It's got to be the first group ever. Well, maybe not the first group ever. Years ago, they probably did something like this, where we band together with our own monastery and place of our final resting place. I don't know. It's crazy.
Bro, it's crazy. My mind is still trying to compute what you just said. Like, I'm still trying to chew on it. It's like, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I'm out of a million people, like, you have people who are going to be so stoked on this. That's awesome. What's the price point look like for our audience? Do you know yet?
$3,000, $3,000, 9 years.
3,000 for 9 years, Joe? That's a steal.
It's too cheap. It's probably going to have to go up in price as demand. We're figuring it out. We weren't ready. Like I said, somebody leaked it, so we're figuring it out. $300 a year, basically. Average race is $125. So it's going to cost you. Yeah, it'll cost you like $10 a race or something. I mean, it's nothing. It's stupid.
Nothing. You have limited spots for this?
We're gonna do 15,000 spots because
okay, gotcha. That's where I'm like,
10 million people. 15,000 sounded like the right number.
And just for my own data, what does it cost per race? I don't even know how much it costs to enter a Spartan race.
About 125.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that man. Those spots are going to fill up fast.
Yeah. We're psyched. I'll fill you in, and you're getting a spot next to me in Sparta.
Let's go. All right, Joe. Well, I appreciate it again, man. Thank you for everything that you're doing, from your books to your businesses to just you as a person. The first time I was introduced to you was off a video of you carrying those kettlebells. I didn't even know who you were, your brand, just that you're carrying a kettlebell around, doing hard shit. Keep being that beacon, man. I know you will. And so it's just so cool to see that there's still people out there that are in their right mind. And so thank you. And again, Wolfpack, follow him. Go to his stuff. Let's join his Discord. Let's make some noise with this. What are you calling it again?
Global Pass. The Spartan. It's called the Unbreakable Pass because we want to make you unbreakable.
The Unbreakable Pass. All right, Wolfpack. Until next time.
What's up, guys? I knew you'd like this episode. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Here are the details for the 300 tickets and how I'm going to go about it. It's going to be pretty simple for you guys to get the tickets. First, email contact@adaptivealphas.com. Put in the headline Spartan Race tickets. We're going to give you access to about 4 or 5 different races over the coming months. There's a few things that I'm working on with the Spartan team. Now, I've never done a Spartan race before. Originally, the idea was let's all meet up, all 300 of us, at one specific Spartan race. But because the next one is all the way into July, I didn't want anyone to miss out, or I know most of my audience isn't just in Utah. This podcast itself has reached 67 different countries. So if you're on the West Coast, we got you. California, San Diego, and SoCal. If you are in Central Time or Arizona area, we also got you. If you're on the East Coast, there's the Spartan Race coming up in Florida. Now, these tickets aren't cheap, but the fact that Joe offered us community members the tickets, I think is really cool. So last thing, again, shoot the email to contact@adaptivealphas. Again, the reason that we are opening it up to more and sooner races is because I want to make sure it's accessible to everybody who wants to rise to the challenge as well. Because he's challenging me, now I'm challenging you, my community. And I believe in my heart of hearts, the Adaptive Alphas community is the toughest community out there. So let's show the Spartan team that that's the case. If you guys have any questions, reach out to me. Send me a message on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is. Just shoot me a message. I hope more than anything, you guys rise to the challenge. Put a date on your calendar. Get these tickets. But I know the Wolfpack is going to be really hard to beat. You guys are going to be really, really hard to beat. So let's go.